My friends are my power.
This is the ultimate life form. Tyrant.
It's like one of my Japanese animes. They'll pay for this.
Red, white, and otaku.
That's why I'll never forgive the Japanese!
Howdy, folks. This is Sheltered Snipe. Before we begin, I just want to plug something really quick. On our YouTube channel, we've made a reaction video to the Cyberpunk Edgerunner Season 2 teaser trailer. It's our first time doing React content, so we'd appreciate it if you checked it out and let us know what you think. Helpful tips on how we can improve are always appreciated. Okay, with that said, here's the episode.
All right, hello, viewer. Welcome back to Red, White, and Otaku. My name is Tangent Man, and this
is Sheltered Snipe. How y'all doing?
Yeah, this is episode 1, which is logically the second episode of our podcast. And if you missed the memo last time, this is Red, White, and Otaku. What we do here is we cover media either from America that is about or remaking content in Japan, or media from Japan that is about or set in or remaking content from America. This is a very broad category, and it encompasses pretty much all media types. So we can talk about video games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, comic books, manga, whatever, basically. And we will cover every instance of Japanese-American media or American-Japanese media ever created, possibly in 3 to 4 months.
Probably a little bit longer. There's a lot of it.
You're just a pessimist. We'll get through it. Anyway, so this, like I said, we do consider this episode 1. If you saw our previous episode, that was episode 0. We kind of consider it to be like the pilot for our podcast where we're still figuring stuff out. And considering I expect this episode to be a little bit sparser than our last one, I thought we could just start out by talking about the past episode and how we think it went and what we learned from it. And I'll hand that over to you, Snipe. What do you think?
All right. Well, to start with, episode 0 was, again, our first foray into the world of podcasting. I am very much the sort of weird audio-technical gremlin that's behind the scenes. Spoiler alert, I know nothing about audio or recording or anything like that. So it's been a learning experience for me. I've bought some new stuff recently to sort of help with that a little bit. Probably not going to help too much because dials and stuff scare me, but at least I got a webcam so you and I can see each other while we're talking. You folks at home can't. Sorry, you won't be seeing my beautiful mug here. But as for episode 0, I think it was pretty good. I mean, there were some audio technical hiccups, but aside from that, I think the content that we discussed was interesting. You, Tangent, you really got into the meat and potatoes of Cyberpunk itself, because you're more of an analytical person than I am. I just see cybernetic monstrosity. I'm like, oh, wow, cool. What did you think?
I thought it went really well. I do think that the audio stuff on my side for episode 1 was pretty rough, just largely because of the equipment I had at my disposal. I've also invested in some better equipment since then, so I'm hoping that this episode we won't have as many of those glitches. Hopefully going forward, this will be smoother to listen to. I think other than just technical details, one of my bigger concerns going into this was, even though you and I tend to appreciate different things, we tend to have similar likes and dislikes on a larger scale. And I was worried that our opinions would be too much of the same for it to be an interesting back and forth for other people. But I think I listened to the 2 different edits of the podcast you made. And I think that when I heard you go into detail about how you saw David's attack on his bully in the school as like a school shooting allegory, I realized, oh no, this is going to be good. This is actually going to be pretty good, because we do... I think that you kind of sell yourself short. You do see a lot of interesting patterns in media that I don't, or that I simply disagree with, and I think that's great because we need like a multitude of perspectives even between 2 people for this to work. So I think that with that and with your editing, it really sounded like what I would consider a real podcast, like something I'd listen to on the way to work. And that's really encouraging. It makes us feel worthwhile.
You're making me blush. Oh boy, so how are we going to talk about this today, I wonder?
Hmm. Well, first of all, I had some, while I was listening to the other episode, I had some, like, post thoughts about Cyberpunk, and this will be real brief. But one thing that I thought was really funny is listening to us talk about it, is it is so much the game that parents were terrified of when we were kids. Like, I don't think that game even existed back then, like anything quite like it, but listening to us, we're like, oh yeah, you go on murder sprees in the game. Yeah, you design your own genitals and have sex, and oh yeah, everybody's on drugs. Drugs are actually legal in the game world. And I was like, wow, if this had been on Fox Kids, well, no, not Fox Kids to use her, Fox News when I was in elementary school, I think that every parent over the age of 40 would have had a heart attack and died.
Yeah, I was going to say you bought Cyberpunk. You've been playing it more now.
Mhm.
What's your experience with it so far?
It is. I've only played it for like one session since I bought it, and that was a longer session than when you were over. God, I hate to think it was probably like 7, maybe 8 hours. Too long for me.
Wow.
But I know, right? I kind of cut loose there. But I really enjoyed it. It's the kind of game that I hate to love. It reminds me of the one time I played Breath of the Wild, where I'm like, wow, this is a really compelling gameplay loop to get lost in. Um, I don't know if I can afford to. So I enjoy it. I want to play more of it. I don't know if I'm willing to invest the time into it to really experience all it has to offer, but it's a good game, and I actually find the game world so far more empathetic and well developed than the show was.
Yeah. The writers of that game, they really get more into the humanity aspect that I find fascinating because everyone in it's
Mhm.
such a soulless husk. Um,
Yes.
and there's also some esoteric mystical stuff going on. If you peel away some of the layers, I don't know how to explain it. There's no overt magic or anything, but
Right. I,
there's.
I actually have some spoilers. I kind of know what you're talking about. I don't know if we want to give it away for the audience, though, just in case they haven't played the game.
Oh, we won't. Yeah, no, that's fine. But
But
uh,
I do find that interesting.
yeah, I was just nerding a little bit.
But that's all my cyberpunk stuff. If you have anything else to say about it, go for it.
No, I mean you've echoed some of those similar sentiments to my own. The one other thing is Wuthering Waves just had their Cyberpunk collaboration, and I'm just saying from what I've seen, I haven't played it yet. There's a few spoilers online. It seems like an
Mhm.
interesting sort of epilogue, almost. So we're not sponsored. Um, oh, and
We are not sponsored.
there's one other thing. We're not sponsored. Um, there is a music video that sort of acts as a small little prequel to Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I didn't know if you knew about that.
Really? No.
Yeah,
What is it? What video?
I need to remember what it's called. Give me a second. Ah, I found it. It was the ending theme called Let You Down by David uh, Podsiad. I can't pronounce that name, but it's called Let You Down. I can't pronounce the last name. I'm so sorry, David. Or Daweed, sorry. That's even worse. I mispronounced their name multiple times.
I'll have to Google it. That sounds cool. The animation is like one of the best parts of that series, and the music. So that's probably awesome.
Yeah, the music video was also done in collaboration with a YouTube video game reviewer called the Sphere Hunter, I believe. She does,
Oh, I've seen some of her stuff.
yeah, she does good stuff. A big Capcom fan, if you like Capcom, which we'll touch on that
Mhm.
sometime.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, a viewer, a joke for you. So spoilers for Cyberpunk Edgerunners, but if you saw our previous video all the way through, then nothing that'll surprise you. But towards the end of that, Snipe asked me which character death was most traumatic for me. I did not realize he was taking notes on that. He sent me two different edits of the podcast to listen to, and both of them were fan art of Rebecca getting absolutely demolished by Adam Smasher. So just poking me where it hurts there. But I appreciate the personal touch.
What can I say? It's the small details that really make it matter.
Speaking of small details, Snipe, what are we critiquing today?
Oh boy. Well, up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire, his head in the sky. Godzilla! Godzilla! Godzilla!
And Godzooky! Anyway, so yeah, we watched four episodes from the 1978?
Yes.
Yeah. Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon. Specifically, we watched the first three episodes from season 1, and then episode 6 of season 2. We'll explain why later. Yeah, so we're going to be getting into all of that, which is kind of hard to find entry point into, but let's start with Snipe. What did you think of what we saw, just generally?
Well, it was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, so let's just start with this: the fact it's not as meaty as Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I know that's a surprise. A cartoon from 1978 is not nearly as sophisticated as Studio Trigger anime. I did not hate 1978's Godzilla Hanna-Barbera cartoon, TM, but it's limited by there's several constraints that were put on the show. I'll go into that in a second. That sort of detracted a bit from it overall. Very much, they could have done more with the concept, and they wanted to, but just... Oh, I know I'm acting like I hate it. I did not hate it. You keep reminding myself that. What did you think?
Now you sound like me last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had also mixed feelings. At various points, I was very excited about this product. I went into it not really expecting much. I'd actually seen a few episodes when I was a kid, back when Blockbuster mailed DVDs to your house.
Wow.
I know, yeah, back in the Paleolithic era. But I'd seen like 3 episodes back then, and just off of that, my expectations weren't that high. But browsing through the episodes, I got real excited. And then I started watching them, and I became less excited. And then I got engaged again, but at a certain point, it left a sour taste in my mouth, and we will explain exactly what intervals that happened at. But yeah, I find it to be a historical curio. I don't know if I would recommend it in isolation.
Yeah, it's a product of its time. I'm sure when it aired during the Godzilla Power Hour with other Hanna-Barbera cartoons, it was fine. Hanna-Barbera made over, let me see my notes here, 249 individual cartoon series over the course of when it existed. That's over 1,200 hours worth of animation. That is a lot of reused run cycles. Yeah. And Godzilla stands out because of the license that's attached to it, obviously. But again, they didn't do as much with that as I wish they would.
Yeah, I would agree. By the way, we need to make a habit of this. I almost forgot. We'll put this here, I guess. But let's talk about our spoiler warning. This is a spoiler-free podcast, and what I mean by that is we will be separating it into a spoiler-free section at the head, unless otherwise noted, and then a spoiler section at the tail end. But depending on the property we're covering, we'll be negotiating what does and does not constitute as a spoiler, but we'll give you as much of a warning about that as we can. In the case of this property, I do not consider anything from this episodic 1978 Godzilla series to be a spoiler. So if you're worried about being spoiled in any particular episode or the overall show, leave. What's wrong with you? But what we won't be spoiling is we will not be spoiling any other American productions that involve Godzilla. That means the 1998 TriStar movie. That means anything from Legendary, the other 2000s Godzilla cartoon, Monarch on Apple TV. We will not be referencing, or at least not discussing it to any extent, any of those works. What will be on the table is earlier Toho Godzilla, and where I'll be drawing the line is about 2010. We will not be spoiling Shin Godzilla or Godzilla -1 or anything that's come out post 2014, basically. So if you don't want spoilers on any Godzilla movies from 2004 or further back, then maybe this isn't the podcast for you. But we won't be spoiling any of those directly or intentionally. They're just on the table, so that's your warning. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about one of what I think are this series' greatest strong suits, which are the episode titles.
Oh, yeah.
Snipe, I don't know what all you saw, but did you look through the episode titles at all? Do you have any favorites that stood out to you?
I did not. You warned me not to because you said you wanted this section all to yourself. You greedy little piggy.
I forgot I did that, but that was smart of me.
That was. The only episode titles I know are the ones that you told me to watch. So yeah. I follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders.
Yes. Thank you, my clone trooper. I appreciate your obedience. Okay, so this was something that got me excited, and this was the reason that we watched Season 2, Episode 6, was because I was so excited by this title. I'm going to give you a list of the 3 best episode titles from the 36-episode selection. The Time Dragons, the Cyborg Whale, and the Calico Clone. For context, the Calico is the boat that the main characters are on, so presumably it gets a doppelganger at some point. A complimentary list are titles that sound most like a porn film. The Micro Godzilla, the Breeder Beast.
What?
The Breeder Beast. That's an actual title.
Oh.
I didn't watch that episode. I don't know what happens.
What's wrong with us? Why didn't we watch that one?
I was more intrigued by the Cyborg Whale. What can I tell you? Macro Beasts.
Yeah.
And Moonload. This show is kind of a curiosity. It's an American cartoon about Godzilla. So, Snipe, do you have any context for why this exists to begin with?
Yeah, sure. Basically, Toho had considered creating a Godzilla since around the late 1960s, actually. And initially, they had talks with the company known as Filmation about potentially creating a Godzilla cartoon, but those talks fell through the cracks. So instead, a good old-fashioned, ever-reliable Hanna-Barbera showed up, and they sort of picked up the pieces, and they got the licensing rights to make the cartoon. It was Joseph Barbera's idea to license the character in the first place. He's the one, the Hanna-Barbera. Technically, there's 3 folks involved with Hanna-Barbera. I forgot to write down the other 2's names because they're not important to this story. Now, the interesting thing is about this cartoon is the fact that a TV executive urged Hanna-Barbera to lighten the mood because Godzilla, it has some darker elements, at least the earlier films did, until it got all sort of wacky and zany, which, I mean, hey, come on, that's fun, Godzilla. So that's sort of what caused the inception of Godzooky, everyone's favorite baby Godzilla. Don't you love Godzooky?
I am perplexed by Godzooky, but we will circle back to that later.
Basically, they originally, which surprised me, Hanna-Barbera wanted to follow more closely to the movies. However, standards and practices were like, no, you can't have Godzilla directly destroying buildings or stomping on cars. it's fine if like the bad guys, I guess, do some of that, but Godzilla, no, he has to be a hero. And that's the interesting thing is you get a completely heroic Godzilla in this show.
Yeah, and man, I don't know which part's weirder. The idea of a completely heroic Godzilla, which there is context for, which we'll get into, or the idea of directly adapting these movies into a children's cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Setting aside the content, the thing about them is that Godzilla is famously a very, prolific film series, like one of the most, at least until like you get the MCU and all that stuff. But at the time, 1978, there were only 15 Godzilla movies.
Oh, only? Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot, but there's 36 episodes of this show.
Wow.
So, I mean, and these episodes, this show, it's like every episode is basically a self-contained story. There's not like an arc or development. So presumably you wouldn't have 3 episodes all adapting Ghidorah, the 3-episode monster. You'd have, episodes individually depicting different movies in the franchise, which, to be fair, are, for the most part, pretty self-contained. And, I feel like you'd run out of content faster than a Hanna-Barbera show would need more of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially since, the concept after a while will get kind of old. It's every episode, Godzilla shows up twice, fights a monster. Godzooky shows up, stops the monster, and then end credits. It's not really...
You spoiled the synopsis.
Oh, I'm sorry. But the more shocking thing I think about this show, which probably detracted from it, was the voice acting. Especially of Godzilla itself. Or himself. Because guess what Toho didn't allow Hanna-Barbera to use? Screonk! That's right. He couldn't do the roar. So instead they had a guy who sounds an awful lot like Scooby-Doo going...
Yeah, that so stood out to me. Like, it really does sound like a man growling. Like, it doesn't sound like any kind of animal noise at all.
I'm pretty sure every monster on the show was just a guy growling, now that I think about it. Like, the episodes that we watched.
Sure, but I've heard them do that well. Like, I've seen, like, anime and shows where monsters are voiced by humans, but still sound, like, monstrous or otherworldly. Like, it really feels like a negative amount of effort was put into that aspect of this particular show.
They were probably ticked off they didn't get the rights to the roar, and they're like, okay, Toho, if this is how you want to play ball, well...
But yeah, it's also pretty clear to me, I don't know if I found this, like, written down anywhere, but either they didn't ask for it or Toho didn't approve for them to use any of the other iconic monsters, because we don't get any other monsters, even where they directly make sense. Like, the first 2 episodes feel like they were tailor-made for Godzilla to fight Rodan and Baragon, a burrowing dinosaur monster. But, I have no evidence to say that that's what Hanna-Barbera wanted to do, but it definitely feels like places where these characters would fit in, and instead we get these kind of filler monsters, which we'll describe in more detail later.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, I won't go into the description of... I mean, the first episode especially that we watched, that one's the most egregious, and I'm like, how did Toho not sue them over this? I mean, probably because they were working together, but I mean, it's like, they are about their use of IP and stuff like that. But the interesting thing about the show is it also came out during, I think, sort of like the height of Godzilla popularity as well. Or at least one of the heights. I mean, Godzilla's been around for over 70 years. But it came out a year after Blue Oyster Cult's hit single Godzilla came out. And the same year as that song came out was also the Marvel Comics began their publishing run of the Godzilla comic itself. So Godzilla was starting to just like really saturate the mainstream at that point.
That's a good point. We might have to cover that comic someday. I hadn't thought about that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun if I knew how to read.
We have time. I'll teach you. I'll
All right.
teach you. We have 3 or 4. We have 3 or 4 months before this podcast ends, so I can teach you in that time. Yeah, this came out in an interesting period for Godzilla, like in terms of his continuity also. Most big fans of the character will know that Godzilla's history in Japanese media can be divided largely into four eras at this point. You have the Soya era, the Heisei era, Millennium era, and the one we're currently in, the Reiwa era. Um, in Japan, one way they divide up time is by who the emperor is. So Soya, Heisei, and Reiwa all refer to the periods of different imperial rule. Of course, in the modern age, it's kind of a vestigial monarchy, kind of like Britain has, but they still measure time by who has the throne to a certain extent.
Right.
So this cartoon came out right after the last movie in the Soya era came out. That was Terror of Mechagodzilla. When was that? 1975.
Oh wow.
So this was 3 years after that.
I was gonna say,
Um,
Terry of Mecha Godzilla is one of my favorites, actually. So that's a
is
good
it?
one. Oh yeah.
I've seen it, but I was a kid the last time I watched like any of the Soya movies, so I should go back and rewatch that one.
Well, I have like some fond memories of it as a kid. We were getting ready to go on vacation to a theme park, and it was like 6 a.m. in the morning. And I remember just looking at MTV, and they were showing off that Godzilla movie. I think it was Terra Mecha Godzilla, the one where Godzilla, air quotes, beats the crap out of Anguirus.
Oh, that would have been Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, actually, the one before that.
Oh, I'm a fake fan. Either way, Mecha Godzilla is one of my favorite Godzilla characters. So I wish he was in this show.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking Cyborg Whale might have some kind of. We'll get there. But yeah, for context, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is the movie where black hole aliens, who are gorillas disguised as humans, create a fake Godzilla to try and terrorize the countryside. Era of Mechagodzilla is where that Mechagodzilla is rebuilt by a mad scientist and gets teamed up with another giant dinosaur creature. But yeah, the Soya era was Godzilla's original period, and it marked a lot of change for the character. The first several Godzilla movies are very horror focused. Godzilla is kind of this personification of American aggression and nuclear threat and the trauma Japan faced with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He became very marketable. So by his fifth movie, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Godzilla was kind of reframed as a protagonist. Still kind of a dangerous figure, but something that could defend against other threats. Possibly mirroring Japan's changing relationships with America, but I might be looking too deeply into it. And over time, he got further superhero-fied. Till by the time you get to Godzilla versus Hedorah and later, he's just like a superhero swoops in at the end of the day to scare off the alien invaders or what have you. And that's kind of the version of Godzilla that the public had as we were going into this cartoon, I think. So from that lens, it kind of makes sense that we're getting this animated Godzilla who is a full-time superhero.
Yeah. I mean, he's a goody two shoes in the cartoon. It's great. Um, that whole thing about a horror character becoming this sort of marketable media icon makes me think of
Mhm.
like this is like completely off base from what our podcast is about, but I'm gonna nerd
Sure.
out for a second. It reminds me of in the '80s when slashers were becoming a big thing. You'd see Freddy Krueger on lunchboxes, Michael Myers masks being sold to children at Walmart, Jason Voorhees dolls being sold to kids. It's like here you have this gigantic monster that represents nuclear annihilation. Would you like him included in your Hardee's kids meal? Of course.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. And I mean, this is probably the only time I'm going to talk about it on this episode, but I'm sure, we're going to cover more Godzilla media in the future and it'll probably come up again. But it kind of bugs me to see this version of Godzilla in American media specifically, because he was such a critique of how America handled its war with Japan and the acts we committed in the process of that war, that, having Godzilla in American media be a superhero kind of feels like whitewashing our own record on the international stage. I don't want to like get into necessarily the details of that stuff in World War II, whether or not we were justified in those bombings, whether or not they were necessary, because I'm not really trying to have that conversation or criticize our actions in those contexts specifically. But whether or not they were justified, they were horrific, and turning Godzilla from a representation of that horror into someone who beats up the bad guy and is unquestionably in the right is pretty disturbing to me. It's almost Orwellian.
Well, that's
I also think, like, as far as audiovisual content is concerned, I think this is the first wholly original piece of Godzilla media made outside of Japan, or at least in America. As far as I can tell, before this, all we have are the dubs of the first movie, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and the dubs of Gigantus the Fire Monster. And I'm sure a few other dubs that just aren't notable enough to have their own Wikipedia articles. But I think that this cartoon is the first time there's an entirely American product of Godzilla.
right.
In an audiovisual format, not including like comic books and coloring books and I don't know what else, but yeah.
I was going to say, what would... no, we'll save that for another time. I was going to ask about King Kong versus Godzilla, the original.
Oh, I figured we will cover that. Yeah, I think that'd be great for us. That would make complete sense.
Yeah. Okay, I'll save that juicy content for later then.
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe we should just sit down. I feel like there's like 5 or 6 franchises that we're kind of inevitably going to cover a lot of in the course of this podcast. Yeah, we like right now, viewer, we're basically planning one episode ahead. Like I made a little like wish list for season 1, but we're kind of taking turns picking topics, so we are just on the edge of our seats. But we're going to talk about as much as you are. It might pay for us to kind of sit down and hammer out when we want to have franchise properties versus one-offs, and kind of have a look ahead so we can get ahead of ourselves in terms of watching or reading and not just be doing it weekly. But we can talk about that when we're not recording. You don't need to see the nuts and bolts of this part, viewer.
You don't get permission to see my nuts and bolts.
That's what the OnlyFans was for. Anyway, so very brief synopsis of this. So, unlike Edge Runners, there isn't really a series or season-long arc. So we basically just have the flow of a regular episode. In a typical episode, which is to say every episode we watched, our heroes are on their ship, the USS Calico, and they are going usually nowhere in specific, or to visit a research station or drop off at a tourist destination or whatever. And without knowing it, they run into some type of incident that is almost always being caused by up until now unknown kaiju. They get involved, they investigate, sometimes scientifically, and ultimately Captain Majors is forced to use his button to sonically summon Godzilla to their location. And then some combination of Godzilla and Godzooky, their mini kaiju, who seems to be the child Pete's pet, will defeat the larger threat, and they will carry on to the next adventure. And that's kind of the whole show. I mean, not that I expected or wanted more, but that is what it is. Snipe.
Yeah, it's incredibly formulaic to the point where it's like, yeah, this is a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Because it's like Scooby-Doo. Every episode the gang goes somewhere, there's a monster. Uh-oh, it was actually like the landowner who was trying to scare people in an insurance scam or something. And this, it's everywhere they go, uh-oh, some sort of disturbance is happening, and it's like, you can't figure out that's another giant monster? I mean, I guess the one that sort of got away from that a little bit was the cyborg whale, but even then, it's still a giant thing that's causing havoc.
Yeah.
And they need Godzilla and Godzooky to go ahead and stop that problem, because humans are completely useless.
Aren't we, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very. I'm glad you brought up Scooby-Doo because I had that in my mind too. Watching the show, probably because it's the main Hanna-Barbera property I'm familiar with. It did feel very Scooby-Doo. I'm kind of surprised there weren't many human antagonists. Like it didn't turn out, oh, old man Reavers was actually terrorizing this poor phoenix into destroying the island or something, you know? But no, it's pretty black and white. It is just like this natural animal is causing chaos and we must kill it with extreme prejudice.
Yeah, like in episode 1, can I spoil it? Can I spoil the ending to that
Yeah.
one real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they stop the Firebird by trapping it in a cave underwater and like a cask of Amontillado-ing it. And I'm like,
I was going to make that reference too.
yeah, it's kind of messed up. It's like Amontillado. It's like Godzilla just stacks rocks in front of this underwater cave entrance, and I just assume it's implied it drowns.
But yeah, that was horrifying. I did not see that coming. That kind of made it worth it. I think that was one of the points where I kind of got excited about the show again, just because it had surprised me enough where I was kind of on board to see what other zany stuff they were going to do from there.
Yeah, and how many episodes did you say there were again?
I want to say 36. Let me see. I have the episode guide pulled up over here. Yeah, so season 1 has 13 episodes. Okay, so actually I was wrong. It's 26 episodes, so not as long as I said, but still a pretty healthy amount.
Yeah. I was going to say, we've only watched a small fraction of the episodes, even though we already know what all happens in them. So I am kind of curious about what other monster designs they had, and how horribly Godzilla murders them.
Yeah, I think we can talk a bit about monsters here. Like, we're kind of outside the framework, but why not? The Firebird was definitely not Rodan, but narratively it could have been and probably should have been. But it didn't look like it had like a swan neck.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like a bird, like not a pteranodon or whatever. It did not look like it should be in lava. It was very phoenixy, almost like if Looney Tunes made a phoenix.
Yeah, I just remember, I think it went like, wah! Or like, rah! I'm trying to like emulate how the grown men doing that voice went, instead of Toho using like instruments in their monster roars instead.
Yeah, you might be doing a better job than the voice actor, if we're honest. I think of the ones we saw, the design I like best was the Earth Eater in episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
It still wasn't great. I definitely think its face kind of over-emoted. They did that thing where they slapped human eyes on it so you can read its emotions, which is very un-kaiju. I love my rubber suit technology, which did not allow for that. But it kind of looked like if a termite was a dinosaur, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it also had a really messed up death. Now I think about it.
Yeah, it did.
It did.
Yeah, they throw it into water and it melts like a silicate. It looked like a way Spider-Man might defeat the Sandman.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that thing
Except
is,
fatal.
yeah, that thing is dead. I'm like, well, standards and practices probably doesn't care about giant monsters too much. If that were a giant mud person, like a person made out of mud, maybe there'd be a problem. Maybe. No.
I think part of the justification is that it's made out of mud. It's kind of like in Samurai Jack, where he can cut people up as long as they're actually robots.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it's mud instead of blood and guts, it's fine. You know, that's how I think it works, censorship-wise.
A little tangent. Are we ever going to cover Samurai Jack on this?
I don't know. Maybe I need to look into it more. Like, it does have the word samurai in it, so it sounds kind of Japanese coded, but I've really never watched any of it, so I have no idea how if it would be on brand or not.
Either way, you got to watch it, man.
Okay, maybe I will.
Hey, it has ties to Hanna-Barbera technically, because this stuff was later rerun on the Boomerang Network, which was affiliated with Cartoon Network, which is affiliated with Adult Swim, which is where the 5th season of Samurai Jack played. You know what? We'll go into the spreadsheet later, but I swear it's totally got what we're talking about here.
Okay, well, I don't know if a tie to Hanna-Barbera is enough to make it appropriate for the Red, White, and Otaku podcast, but if you can sell me on the idea that it's like an American production adapting something Japanese or containing Japanese tropes or themes, then we can try and fit it in.
Oh, we'll talk about this later.
Okay, yeah. And viewer, I'll remind you of this at the end of the show, but we do have an email. If you would like us to cover Samurai Jack, if you have an argument for why you should, email us. Win me over. Anyway, back to the monsters. The stone beasts I thought were fine. They looked kind of cool, and they had ice powers, which I think is kind of lacking in kaiju media for some reason. I haven't really seen that, at least not in many Godzilla movies. But ultimately they were pretty forgettable. The fact that they're basically like a magical version of robots makes me not really care about them or even remember specifically how they died. So, yeah.
Oh, I can remind you. There's 2 of them, and they both charge at Godzilla. Godzilla like jumps out of the way, and then they both crash into each other into a pile of rubble. They died.
It does feel a little off-brand and kind of cool that Godzilla defeats a lot of these monsters by just being a better fighter and stronger than they are, as opposed to like silly trick like it would be in a Scooby-Doo or a Flintstones cartoon.
Yeah, there's a lot of brute force going on.
It feels kind of off-brand, which a lot of the stuff in here does. We keep saying that, but it I don't know. I guess maybe someone was trying to actually adapt these Godzilla movies in some way. All right, so we've kind of covered those episodes by talking about the monsters. We'll loop around to talking about the main cast here in a bit. But I guess I want to talk about the cyborg whale. This episode broke me, Snipe. I watched this and I was in a bad mood. Like my girlfriend heard about it the next day. Like I was pissed off about this episode.
No, I was excited to see the cyborg whale, and then when I watched what their definition of a cyborg was, all the life drained from my eyes.
Yeah,
Because
what the fuck was that?
yeah. You want to tell them?
Yeah, okay. So the only reason that we watched season 2, episode 6 was because I saw the title Cyborg Whale and I wanted to see Godzilla fight a cyborg whale. That sounded so badass. But then, like, yeah, they're sailing out to meet this thing, and this giant metal, I don't know, submersible rises up from the ocean. And someone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's a monster!" And Brock will explain. He goes, "No, it's not a monster. It's just a cyborg whale, an automated sea incident researching device." And okay, it's not a cyborg because it's just mechanical. There are no organic components. And it does not really resemble a whale. I mean, it kind of has a tail on it, but it does not have any real whale-like qualities, nor does it contain any organic material from a whale. I have no words. I am only angry.
This episode catfished us is what happened. Yeah. And basically, we learned not to judge a book by the cover, except its episode by its title. Because we're like, oh yeah, cyborg whale. Oh no, it's just a robot. Why not call it the autonomous whale or something? Because the word is too big. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I think it saved you, Snipe, because at this point, when I added Cyborg Whale to the docket, my game plan was, okay, well, we're going to watch the others. I was like, these episode titles are so good. Like, we won't watch all of them for this episode, but I'm going to, like, put it on the docket somewhere else or leave it up to viewers, and we're gonna watch the rest, because this is too good to not watch all of. This is crazy. And I saw Cyborg Whale, and I was like, no, I'm done. I don't trust this show with my time anymore. Where this is good. Viewers, if you want us to watch the rest of Godzilla 1978, you're gonna really have to make it worth our while. You're gonna have to make some promises you can't keep. I don't know, but it's going to be an uphill battle for you. 'Cause I am genuinely mad at this cartoon where I'm sure most people worked on it are dead by now.
Oh, they're definitely all dead. So that's at least a little bit of relief, you know, that such evil's gone from this world. Sorry, that's a
I don't
horrible
want
thing
to share
for
a planet with you.
that's a horrible thing for me to say. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, people from like 60 years ago.
Do we want to talk about? We've talked about the monsters as far as I think we really can, honestly. Do we want to talk about the main characters to the extent that's possible?
The only character I remember is Brock because you might see a, you know, his name is like Brock Samson from the Venture Brothers, which is a far better cartoon.
Yeah, interesting. I thought you were going to say Brock from Pokemon, but I mean, he's really not like either of those people.
No, he's not. He's just some
He's really
guy.
not like any.
I don't even
Yeah.
know what he does on the Calico.
All right. Well, I will break down the characters then. As far as humans go, we basically have four protagonists. First, we have Captain Carl Majors. He is the captain of the ship. He is the one who gets the honor of summoning Godzilla in most episodes. If something needs to be driven, it's usually by him. And he is implicitly kind of an action hero guy, although in the episodes we saw, he doesn't do a whole lot of action hero stuff other than, some fancy driving to escape the Earth Eater. There is Dr. Quinn. She is the scientist on board. Often they are going somewhere so that she can research something or speak on something. Maybe I'm just kind of out of touch with media from the 70s. I actually kind of found it kind of refreshing that she got to be an intelligent character. Like, not only is she a scientist, but she actually uses her intellect to get them out of problems sometimes, like in episode 2 where she comes up with the plan to deal with the Earth Eater. So, that's cool. It's not nothing. And there's Brock, who kind of is nothing. I mean, he is a bit of representation. He's the only non-white character who's a regular on the show. He's black, but he doesn't really do much. He seems to be some type of engineer. He reads off the monitors and stuff. I feel like he was, working some technical equipment inside the cyborg whale that gave the impression that he had some higher education in terms of machinery. But there's very little exposition about these characters' backgrounds, so we kind of have to judge them based on their actions on the show, and that's about all we get to go off of him. And there's Pete, who is a little boy who does not seem to be the child of any of the adults on this boat, considering he calls them all by their first names for the most part. Go for it.
I think it was mentioned that he is related to what's her name again?
Quinn?
Yeah, she's like his aunt, I think.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm like, but why is he here? Yeah, 20-minute episodes are divided into 3-part chunks on YouTube because of Godzilla's channel for some reason.
Oh, I forgot to say, viewer, if you want to watch this, it's all for free on YouTube. You can just go on YouTube and search Godzilla 1978, and there's a playlist of all of these episodes on the official Godzilla channel, so you can just watch them.
Yeah, get ready to be whelmed.
I don't know if you want to, but I should have said that so you could have watched them before you listened to this, and you could have felt my pain about the cyborg whale. But there are definitely worse things to watch. This will not be the thing we see on the show that makes us the angriest. So
that'll be what's next.
Oh yeah, you might be right. Anyway, so moving along with the characters after Pete, we have the non-human characters. So let's talk about Godzilla. We've already talked about how they adapt him as more of a hero and how we don't get his iconic screonk noise. What do you think about the other choices they made with Godzilla?
Yeah, I was looking in some of the choices that they made. There were several designs for him that were rejected from this show because Toho thought they were too dragon or dinosaur-like. So they demanded he have a bit of gorilla-ness, ape-ness added to his facial structure. So you'll notice he has a bit of a brow going on. He's got some pectorals. He's kind of He's also got a big butt. I'll be honest. I don't know why I look so much at that. Probably says more about me than the show.
It does.
But my overall thoughts on Godzilla on the show is, I mean, he still seems like a Godzilla. He still fights monsters. He still goes, "Roar!" Just no Skrionk. Although giving him laser eyes was certainly a choice.
Yeah, I have to say, I kind of disagree with your overall assessment. To me, he really did not feel like a Godzilla. For one thing, he is very green relative to other Godzillas. I actually feel, I wonder if this was like, in some way, the source material for Reptar from, right?
Yeah, dude, I was thinking about Reptar, watching the show. I'm like, he looks a lot like Reptar.
Yeah, I'm wondering if some of the I have not researched this at all, and was not like a Rugrats kid growing up, so I know very little about this. But I'm wondering if he was like this was some kid's show, and that kid grew up and made Rugrats.
Probably.
He's very green.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
I was gonna say probably influenced Rugrats Go to Paris, where they have the Japanese theme park in Paris, and then they have giant Reptar mech that the kids fight a giant snail in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very green, also like Reptar, and like you said, with Olsemi in this, his snout's super weird. Like it doesn't feel like a reptile snout at all. Over the course of Godzilla's Soya history, they went through several different suits. Like I'm looking at a few different pictures on my other tab, and I see at least 6 different costumes they used during that era of Godzilla. And it's interesting that the further you go, I think the cheaper and more kid-friendly they look. Towards the end, we're getting things that look almost as much like Kermit as Godzilla. So I feel like they were bringing some of that energy into the show. And then episode 2, they add him like breathing fireballs, but it's not like his radioactive breath. It's not blue and it's not a stream. It's like literal fireballs, which is not a Godzilla thing. It's almost a Gamera thing. So yeah, that's all. I don't know. Like it is cool to see him fight though. He still does have some of the physical moves, like with his arms and the same kind of half animalistic tactile thinking that Godzilla in the movies usually has.
He does tail whip.
And he does tail whip. And he isn't quite as like conversational as End-Stage Soya Godzilla could be. He is more like he just shows up and deals with the threat and leaves. There isn't that much human Godzilla interaction in the 4 episodes we saw, which is something I appreciate. I'm not a big fan of Godzilla, I don't know, winking at the humans or responding to direct requests. That's always weird. So they don't quite go that far.
But he does get summoned like every single day to deal with all these little problems, and I'm just thinking like he's probably so sick of this right now. It wasn't for the fact that the sun is with these people.
Yeah, and he gets summoned multiple times too. Like in episode 3, I think they call him on 3 different occasions, and he just comes and helps them. Like watching it, I kept thinking like at some point they're gonna press that button, and he's gonna just stay in the ocean. Like, you can't have like a trained animal, well, a poorly trained animal, expect it to always respond to the same command. Like he's Godzilla, you have nothing over him.
That reminds me, it was like episode 2, they're in San Francisco, the Earth Eater, right? And it's so weird, there are people on this bridge, the bridge is collapsing, and then like Godzilla gets summoned, and they're like, look, it's Godzilla, he'll save us. And that just gave me some tonal whiplash. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess he was kind of a superhero at this point, but I just keep thinking about the original film, and I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know. All I can do is refer back to my earlier points about the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The idea Godzilla will save us is just perverse to me. And, you know, the thing that the show is probably remembered for, the only thing that anybody can off the top of their head tell you about the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon that we need to talk about to some extent is Godzooky. But you've referenced him already. Tell me what you think about Godzooky.
okay, so he's a Scrappy-Doo type character. He's the Poochie. He's he is a small baby Godzilla who's still bigger than everyone else. Um, eh, he can fly unlike Godzilla for some reason, which makes me wonder who his mother was. Um, Makes me question a lot about the Godzilla's biology and what's going on here. Maybe he just got mutated or something. Who knows? Because he's an aberration, honestly. Of all the things to be made on this green Earth, this is the one thing that shouldn't exist. But okay, I didn't hate him that much, but his voice really threw me off because it's like goes like okay, and I'm like, I felt like his voice should have been higher pitched, like Baby Godzilla in the
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, so a few interesting notes about Godzooky. I don't remember this saying this in the show, but I remember this from watching whatever episodes I saw as a kid, and I confirmed it on the wiki a little bit ago. He's actually Godzilla's nephew, not his offspring.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
and it's also interesting to note that in none of the movies, at least, I can't speak for every piece of Godzilla media, like the anime and the comic books, but at least in the Japanese movies, Godzilla never has offspring. So obviously there is the movie Son of Godzilla, which introduces the character who has been known as Minilla or Minya, depending on translation. But he is not the younger Godzilla, Minya, is not a direct offspring of Godzilla. He is actually found on an island with other giant monsters, and he just kind of gets adopted by Godzilla and appears as his, younger companion in several other movies until he suddenly doesn't. There's a fan theory that around the time of Godzilla versus Hedorah, that the prior Godzilla actually died, and Manila is the new Godzilla past that point. It's not substantiated by the movies themselves, but it's a prominent theory that Toho has referenced it in official materials. And in the Heisei era, there's another Godzilla, usually called Baby Godzilla or Godzilla Jr., and that is another completely separate mutated Godzillasaurus that the primary Godzilla finds and kind of adopts, that is not his direct biological offspring. So, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is Godzilla doesn't smash in actuality, but he is the father who stepped in.
This is the most
Or uncle,
disappointing
and-
news I've heard all day.
I think it's because the idea of there being an active breeding pair of Godzillasauruses kind of threatens the entire power structure of the Toho universe.
But they'll have a pair of Rodans. I guess that's okay.
Well, but like we've already established that you can spoiler prior Godzilla movies or prior Toho movies to 2010. So the whole point of the Rodan movie is that there can't be a breeding pair. That's why they die at the end of that. So.
Oh. No.
Yeah, there are very few kaiju in the Godzilla universe that have the opportunity to reproduce, and the ones that can, usually through some non-sexual method, are like existential threats that have to be taken down relatively quickly. And Godzilla is not among them. So I think it's for that reason that all of the junior Godzillas that we find, like Godzooky, aren't his direct progeny. That just opens cans of worms we aren't ready to deal with. I agree with you, though. Godzooky is bizarre. The fact that he has wings and the fact that he can't inherently swim. Like I think at some point we see him swimming, but in episode 1 it's established he's not a strong swimmer and needs help getting out of the water. Whereas Godzilla's an amphibian, leads me to believe that Godzooky is like a different kind of creature entirely.
Yeah. I'm sure there's probably some episode that explains their origins at some point. Probably
There's
not.
not.
Probably not. I don't know. It is weird that we're just in media res. It's just like we're just supposed to assume we know who everyone is besides Godzilla. It's just like the dynamics. We're supposed to already know about Godzooky, and it's like I don't know anything about that thing. Get it away from me.
One thing I enjoy about the first episodes of shows like this is how they can kind of indicate that the status quo is new and being established without actually introducing us to it. There is a line of dialogue where Captain Majors says something about how, wow, I've never been seasick until now, when Godzooky climbs on board the ship and makes it shake. So we're indicating Godzooky is a new character to these people, but we're doing it without actually spelling out how he came to be there. So I'm not saying that's good writing, but it is really interesting to me as like a media archaeologist, I guess. But the most interesting thing about Godzooky is all of the superpowers he gets thanks to animation errors. Like his wings are clearly made for gliding. They're very similar to a flying squirrel, or more topically, Varan from the old Toho movies. And yet he can also take off by flapping. And towards the end of episode 1, we also see him stay airborne without moving his wings at all, or even holding his arms or wings aloft. He's just able to like float beside the Firebird's head for several seconds, suspended in midair.
Yeah.
He also can side shift inexplicably.
Yeah, nothing's consistent with the character. Like, I don't know what their model sheet was, but they need as other animators. They need to stick with it more. Oh, they don't have to. They're all dead, but you know.
Yeah. Like in most shots, he's like maybe a head taller than all of the adult human characters. But then suddenly he'll be twice the size of a Humvee the entire human cast fits into. Or even bigger than that. Like at one point, his head looks like it's about the size of the front of the USS Calico. Like he's really all over the place.
Yeah. I guess it's just that tune logic, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where were these guys in Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That would be an excellent crossover for this kind of show. Oh, and he also has an actual superpower, not animation error related. I think around episode 3, he starts using a smoke ring attack. No, episode 2. He starts where he like blows smoke rings, which is mostly ineffective, but sometimes actually does something. And that is actually a reference to Manila or Minya from the Soya era, who had the same type of power and actually used it pretty effectively against Ghidorah in Destroy All Monsters.
There is one other power. He can call Godzilla whenever the communicator is missing, which goes something like something like that. I just want an excuse to make noises. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's what this podcast is for at the end of the day. Just us making noises with each other and inviting people to listen. What can we say about Godzilla 1978? What else is there that can be said for this production?
Well, it was an interesting attempt. It's one of the earliest attempts at sort of Americanizing Japanese media. And it's certainly Americanized. I'll say that. I mean, not as many cheeseburgers. I didn't see a single cheeseburger. For some reason, I kept expecting Godzooky to be like a glutton or something and just eat copious amounts of food because I'm so used to Scooby-Doo. I keep thinking like, oh, all weird, funny sidekick characters just eat a whole bunch, but he doesn't eat a single thing. And
No, he does not.
It makes me feel so sad for him.
It wasn't great. I am glad we watched it. I wish that I was more tempted to watch the rest of it, because I do really love this character, even if I have kind of negative associations with him being portrayed in American media. I still find all of his portrayals to be of interest to me, and I want them to be good or at least worthwhile. But this show, I think it's an interesting period in his history. It's kind of an interstitial bit between the classic series and when he would be reinvented, but not quite. Like around 5-ish years after this, the Heisei era would start, where Godzilla would be reinvented into this like Cold War era monster, where he was more of a feral beast and also an involuntary protector against greater threats. But kind of a more nuanced character than the superhero he's portrayed as here in the late Soya movies. And that's the Heisei era is definitely more my era than what we got here. But for now, I guess we're going to close the book on this cartoon. This isn't coming up next or even soon, but down the road, a series that I'm more interested in is the other Godzilla American cartoon that went from 1998 to 2000, which is another show I saw maybe 3 episodes of. And it's, again, a very different take on the character, but I think, if memory serves, a much more interesting one. So hopefully we'll have a better impression when we get to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've actually never seen that cartoon. I always hear people saying it's kind of decent, so I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I saw at least 3 episodes, but when I was a kid, I used to rent the same, like, 5 or 6 Animorphs VHS tapes from my local library. And one of the trailers on them was just the opening theme song, basically, to that 1998 Godzilla cartoon. And I can't remember the music, but the visuals, the monster designs and stuff are just imprinted in my brain. And yeah, pretty badass. We'll see if they hold up now that I'm, like, I don't know, 23 years older than I was then. But I'm excited. We'll find out. We'll see how nostalgia stands the test of time.
Oh, speaking of nostalgia, did you hear about the Destroy All Monsters remake?
Well, is it a remake or is it just a remaster?
Or
Because
a
they've kind of
remaster.
advertised it better.
Yeah, it's a remaster. I keep getting remake and remaster mixed up. Remake would be what they're doing with Ocarina of Time right now, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
The photorealistic Link makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We only saw like 5 frames of him, but he looks weird. I don't know if that needs to exist.
Well, he's got like a human, like an adult man's body, like head on like a kid's body. Looks like a hobbit or something. I don't.
Maybe that's what Hylians are. I don't know.
I thought they were elves.
I don't know. All I know is that the version of Ocarina of Time I played was on a 3DS, and that was great. Like, we should just have a port of that and then a new Zelda game with new assets. But whatever, I don't work at Nintendo for a reason.
Yeah, because your ideas are too good.
That is the reason.
But
no, I did see the remaster news, and I'm pretty psyched about it. It's we both have a lot of nostalgia for it. I had a copy of that for the GameCube. We both played a good amount of that when we were younger. It's probably been at least 14 years since we booted up the GameCube and played any of it, but it was badass, and this is the most excited I've been for a Godzilla game since Godzilla Unleashed in 2007.
yeah, I was trying to think, when's the last time we had a Godzilla game?
2014, there was Godzilla PS4, which I never played. It had some pretty negative reviews, but I can't speak from any experience about it.
Yeah, I think it's like, get a copy of that now. It costs like hundreds of dollars or something. It's ridiculous.
That's what I've heard from YouTube reviews. Yeah, but luckily that is not for our podcast because it's actually a Japanese game, so it's strictly a Japanese production, no America involved. RWO Monsters, on the other hand, is an American game based on Japanese IP. So that one will be on the docket this November, I think, when it comes out.
I believe it's November 3rd. I think that's Godzilla Day, actually.
Yeah, the only game with the balls to stand up to GTA 6.
I've seen that meme of like Thrag fighting Battle Beast and Invincible, but it's Godzilla coming down to fight GTA 6. So
Hell yeah.
it's inspiring.
I'm so excited. Yeah, and interestingly, so here, I don't know if you're an uber nerd enough to have noticed this in the trailer, but we get footage of 3 monsters in the trailer that just for the remaster. Mostly we see Godzilla 90s specifically, fighting Ghidorah, both of whom were in the original game. But then at the very end, we briefly see Mechagodzilla as he appeared in the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Now, Mechagodzilla was in Destroy All Monsters Melee, but 2 versions of him were. But they were the Heisei era and the Millennium era Mechagodzilla. The Soya era Mechagodzilla was only added in specific Japanese ports of the game. So, it seems like they are adding in monsters that were not previously in the international release of the game, which could open the floodgates for any number of characters to show up here that weren't in the original GameCube version.
Sweet. Yeah, I was gonna say there was like 3 of these games total, right?
Yeah, in the series, yes, not including like the spin-offs on portable and stuff.
Maybe they'll like turn this game into some sort of hub for like porting over all those other ones. Because this game has a pretty cheap price. It's only like $30.
Mhm. Maybe. I could definitely see this becoming like a DLC type situation, or even live service, although I'm not as excited about that, where you could pay to get access to different monsters or different locations or have a battle pass or whatever. I kind of hate modern gaming, but I do like the idea of us getting more monsters added into the mix. Of course, that's kind of the whole point of this type of game. Which is, I kind of wanted to talk about that with you. So I don't know if you remember which ones were in the original game, but the original Destroy All Monsters Melee had 12 monsters. So if we were going to... By the way, viewer, this is the spoiler section. We will not be talking about the plot or any specific details from later movies, but we are allowing the reference of monsters from those movies and descriptions of them if needed. So everything's on the table. That said, what monsters would you want added to this game that weren't in the original release, if you can remember that?
I don't think was Hedorah in it.
No.
I'd take Hedorah because I love Hedorah.
Mm-hmm. I think he was in the second one, Save the Earth, but he was like kind of an environmental thing like Mothra was in the first one, so he wasn't playable.
Yeah, like if I could get like a playable Hedorah that like switches through different forms as the fight goes on, I think that'd be sick. Then I'm trying to think. What was the name of the big one? Oh, I know that. Well, we can still mention it. The main monster from Godzilla 2000. Orga. Yeah, was he in this game?
So interestingly, he was like, he wasn't in the version of it we played insofar as we ever encountered him, but he could, at least in certain versions of the game, you could unlock him. I'm spacing on if he was like broadly, if he's part of the 12 I mentioned. I have it pulled up over here. Yeah, apparently he was. I don't think we ever unlocked him though when we were playing.
That means we're bad at video games.
Oh, and I'm looking at this list. Apparently Hedorah in his flying form was in the game, but he wasn't like playable. Just like Mothra, he was like an environmental hazard kind of.
Ah, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something out there. What about like Abira, the big old lobster?
Ooh, yeah, that'd be fun.
Like,
yeah, if we were getting like, yeah, that'd be cool.
Like get out there with like the wild weirdo picks, just like the weird monsters and never get any representation. What about like Manda?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Giant serpent. I'd like to be like, Kamanga's the obvious one, the giant spider, but almost cooler than that would be Kamakiris, who's the giant like praying mantis thing from Son of Godzilla, among other works.
The giant condor that like shows up for a split second in one of the Godzilla films. Why not? He got a figure recently. He won a fan vote, so you know.
He's in Abira, the same movie. It's either Abira Horror from the Deep or Godzilla versus the Sea Monster if you want the American version.
Been a long time since I've seen that one.
A good one. That was like the maybe third or fourth Godzilla movie I watched, I want to say. A fun fact, if you didn't know, it was originally a King Kong movie, but Toho lost the rights to King Kong, so they put Godzilla in his role.
Huh. Well, that makes sense. There's a lot of Toho films that are supposed to be something else, and then they're like, let's just put Godzilla in it.
There are a few of those, yeah. I think it'd be really cool. In the original release of the game, there were 2 Godzillas. There was Godzilla 90s and Godzilla 2000s. Who are mechanically the same character but with different designs. 2000 Godzilla 90s is classic. I think he has to be in the game as like the default Godzilla almost. But I would be down for swapping out Godzilla 2000s for a Reiwa era Godzilla, either the one from Shin Godzilla or from more likely -1. I think that would be really cool.
Oh, that would be neat. Especially since -1 is always so angry. That one would be fun.
Yeah, I dig that a lot. I also wonder, like, I don't want to state my opinion on these right now, so I'll try not to. But I wonder if Toho would be able to get the rights to use any of the MonsterVerse characters, since that's like their licensed IP.
Oh, most likely. MonsterVerse and everything. I got MonsterVerse, Godzilla, and freaking Fortnite. All right.
Well, yeah, but I don't mean their Godzilla though. Like, I'm wondering if they could use, like, the big stretch would be King Kong. Like, allegedly the PS4 game they wanted to use King Kong, but the rights situation was complicated and they couldn't get him. So I'd be curious if they could play ball with Legendary to get use out of King Kong or even some of the original monsters Legendary has introduced.
Right.
None of which are memorable enough for me to pull their names out of my brain. But it would be, something to pull in the American kaiju fans.
He means me.
I do, and I'm not going to say how I feel about that right now because we're not covering those movies in this episode. And generally, I think it'd just be cool to have more flyers, and a lot of the monsters I'd most like to see playable in the remaster would be ones that were in Unleashed or Save the Earth. So, Biolante, Space Godzilla, Mothra. I love Biolante, I think, for a lot of the same reasons you love Hedorah. Hedorah is also cool. That was a great movie.
Biolante, like, I love Biolante just from, like, a purely, like, film production standpoint as well. Just, like, how they're able to create this gigantic puppet that's, like, orchestrated by, like, I don't know, 18 people, like, all these individual vines, a giant mouth moving. It's a work of art because, I mean, they didn't have a bunch of computer graphic stuff back then. They just had the good old-fashioned practical. And I'm a sucker for practical.
Man, I wish that Biolante had some American contributions we could cover it on this show. That's a great movie, but we are cursed to have some restrictions that we made for ourselves, or else this would just be a completely random product of the week affair. So
maybe we can make a mystery box cast where you don't know what you're getting.
Specifically, so we can review something we already picked in advance that breaks our promises as a podcast. We'll see. But yeah, lots of good Godzilla movies, lots of good monsters, and maybe we can talk about this more sometime around November when that remaster comes out, because that is definitely in our wheelhouse of things to critique.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Snipe, I think we're about to wrap this one up. Tell us, what are we going to be talking about next time on Red, White, and Otaku?
You sure you want to know? You sure you want to carry that weight?
No, but go on.
Well, next time we are going into the Netflix mines because that's an easy place to get content from. We are checking out the live action adaptation. I'm even anticipating of Cowboy Bebop.
Everyone's favorite.
I'll be honest. I've seen one episode in the past. I'm willing to give it a shot again for this podcast, but after that, I might need a detox.
Yeah, we're still kind of discussing how many episodes we want to cover. One limiting factor is I have not seen the original show, and I am debating on if I should try and watch that at around the same time, so I'm coming at it with the full perspective, or if it would be more interesting for Snipe to have seen both, and for me to be a new viewer evaluating the Netflix Cowboy Bebop as its own production. So yeah, I would say to email and let us know, but we're actually going to film this before we've even released episode 0, so there's really no way for you to stop us from making whatever mistakes we're about to. But yeah, despite the bad word of mouth, I'm going to try and go into this with an open mind, and I'm going to try and really enjoy the show. Whatever else happens is out of my hands.
Because we say, whatever happens, happens.
And I have not seen either of these shows, so I don't get that reference, but yeah.
I probably butchered it, honestly. It's been a while since I watched a cartoon, so I need to brush up myself.
Well, that's what we do.
I listen to the OS2 a lot though. Like, it has a fantastic soundtrack.
Ooh, I just glanced at my notes. You know who else I want to see in the remaster, if we can use legendary stuff, are the skull crawlers from Kong Skull Island.
You mean the
Like,
best? No,
regardless,
I almost spoiled something.
yeah, regardless how I feel about those movies, I am a huge Evangelion nerd, and I'm a sucker for that mask, as anyone who has seen me knows. So that would be awesome, even if they're just an environmental hazard on a Skull Island themed level. That would be super cool.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's going to do it for us today, guys. We have been Red, White, and Otaku. Just a reminder, you can reach us either by leaving a comment on this video if you're watching on YouTube, or you can email us at redwhiteandotaku@gmail.com. If you're wondering how to spell that, please look in the episode description. It'll be included there for you to copy and paste if you'd like to get a hold of us. Email is the best way to get a hold of us. As of now, we are still recording these in advance of releasing our first episode, so we won't be reading emails at this time. But once we've started publishing these, we'll be doing a mailbag episode at the end of every episode. Sorry, a mailbag section at the end of every episode. And we'll be doing our best to respond to every email we get. So please just let us know what you think of what we've been doing, what you'd like for us to cover, why you hate us if we insulted your grandfather, anything. So that's what we're here for.
I've been Sheltered Snipe.
And I've been Tangent Man.
Thank you all so much for listening to this. We hope you all have a wonderful day.